Got my little landscape painting all ready to go here. So I want to show you guys how I use some of those strokes that I showed you in my last video. So I'm going to start with my sky, and I'm going to be using my 1-inch flat brush and grabbing a paper towel. Always want to have that handy to dab off excess water from your brush and drips that might happen with your painting. So let's start with a cobalt blue and ultramarine mixture. And we're going to just put in our sky. And I'm going to start kind of in the middle here and trying to leave some areas that would indicate I've got some clouds. And I'm going to be a little bit lighter in color over here because I'm going to come over and put some trees in there. So I'm going to come on down to the mountain, come down past or into that mountain some points, but I also am going to leave a little light areas in this mountain. So I want to not fill in every little part with my blue sky. All right, so come in here and there and just dropping in a little bit of color and softening as I come down so I don't have a hard line left over when I come back in with my trees. Now there's some hard edges here that I'd like to soften up a little bit, so I rinsed off my brush, cleared it of the color, and got it just damp so I can scrub out just some of the harder edges to give it a look like a little more cloud look. These clouds kind of can be wispy and soft with some hard edges here and there, so that's what I'm aiming for. Kind of like the way that looked. Okay, I'm happy with that for the most part. Maybe here a little bit softer. It's kind of the same idea as the stiff bristle brush. I'm just dabbing off the color as I lift it off that paper. Okay. I want to dry that a little bit before I come back into, let's see, hang on. That, I went back and got my stiffer brush, dab out just a little softness there. Okay. And now I'm going to dry this off just a bit. So I can come back over that and put my mountain in. I don't want this too wet when I do that. So hang tight, I'm going to dry this just for a sec. Okay, dry enough. It's still a little cool to my touch, but it's dry enough to come back over the top here of that mountain. I'm going to go ahead and grab my smaller flat brush. This is a shorter handled one. I'm doing a little bit more of a controlled stroke here as I come along the top edge of this mountain. And I've got a little mixture of ultramarine blue, of course, alizarin, and Hooker's green. I want a little purpley, cooler look for this mountain. So I am going to just come with that little mixture of color and using the corner of my little flat brush here, I'm going to come along the edge. It's kind of a jaggedy mountain. And then up here, I want to come and soften this somewhat so I can come over the top of it and not have hard lines. So I'm leaving some areas that are just indicating snow. Do a little bit more color up in this top. It's still wet, so I can drop in some color. Rinse my brush off real good. I want that to be pretty soft. And just bring this on over. Kind of going to fade that out as I get more distant with that mountain range. Drop it in just a little bit more. All right. Kind of use this to come a little bit up here. See how you can use that little flat brush and use all these different parts of it to create your painting. Awesome. Got a little lost edge there, which is a nice thing to do in a painting. Now I want to, while this is still damp over here, I've got a little bit of a greener mixture of ultramarine blue, alizarin crimson, and Hooker's green, and I'm just going to use this brush to drop in with the top corner, with the corner of that, just touching in that color, that mixture. And this is going to be indicating some distant trees on that mountain range. Not going to detail it. I'm just putting in a little bit of a impression that there's trees back there. Soften that. Come down. And I can touch in just here and there. Add a little bit more color. Maybe a little bit darker, so it looks like they're coming forward. And a little bit more green here and there as we come even closer. Keep that a little bit lighter. So I want to maybe get a little quinacridone gold touched in there, here and there. What I like to do as far as green goes, it's very challenging sometimes when you have a landscape that has a lot of green in it. And I like to change it up every inch maybe or so and just give it a little bit of variety in that green like you would see out in nature. It's not always green green. You see reds, you see yellows, you see oranges. You see a lot of different color in your greens. So keep that in mind as you're painting. It's good to have them all mixed up so you're not having to stop and think about your next step. I can work with this little area. I don't want to overwork it, but I can keep on kind of adjusting as I go if that paint is still wet. Just drop in different color. I'm not stroking it in, I'm just dropping it in, kind of charging it in and letting it do its own thing. If you start mixing it, you're just going to end up with mud, and we don't want mud. Soften as I go. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with that. I think I'll come in with a dry brush stroke and add some lighter area greens, like those could be shrubs or trees. Just kind of letting it melt into that other color and the variety, remember? A little bit more. Light areas like sunnier. And just going to kind of come in here and soften this. Wanting that to look like it's kind of fading into the distance. So I want to get a little bit cooler as we go back into that painting. But this great little color here. It's a Holbein color. It's rather expensive, but let's see what it looks like in here. It is a cobalt violet. Just going to kind of touch in a couple of dabs of that as I go back there. Pretty, huh? All right. Let me come down a little bit here. You see how that arches paper, the rough texture of that is so nice. Just gives it a nice kind of textury area. Okay. Right, I like that area. Looks good. So next over here, I've got some tall evergreen trees. I'm going to go with a little bigger brush. Inch. Well, that's a 1/2 inch. So let's use my 1/2 inch, and I'm going to be trying to keep this very loose. So I'm going to be holding it down further on my handle and using this little corners to fill in the top parts of these evergreen trees. And again, I'm using a variety of greens that I have previously mixed and put on my palette. So I'm just mixing up a little bit. I don't think you can see it. Maybe you can. Sap green, lemon yellow, and a little touch of burnt sienna in there to get a lighter green. And then I've got hookers, ultramarine blue, and I'm going to go with burnt orange on that one. Nice evergreen. Hooker's green. And burnt sienna. And having handy, ready to go, I've got some quinacridone gold ready. And I've got a puddle of burnt orange, Daniel Smith, both of those colors. Switch out my water here. It's important to have some clean water to rinse your brush off so you don't get muddied up over here. Okay, so I'm going to start at the top of this evergreen tree with a sap green mixture and just kind of keep it light, keep it flowy on the corner of that brush, and then every once in a while I'm going to switch up my greens and keep it interesting. Even in adding a little bit of blues in here as we go. Whoops, I forgot that little guy. And I want to keep this pretty quick as I come down, so I'm connecting these strokes in a different way, but I want them to mesh together as I come down, so I want to work pretty quick. And lighter green here and there. Get a little tree over here. A bit more water. Leaving little air holes here and there to give it some breathing area, so you can, sky holes, that's what you want. And getting a little darker mixture there of ultramarine. I'm going to do some sap. And like I said, keeping some variety. I'm changing up my color here and there. Some grayed down, kind of looks like shadowy areas. Getting a little of my quinacridone, dropping it in where it's still somewhat wet, so it spreads. Some of my burnt orange. Coming down here. I want to come right over the top of that so it looks like these trees are in the foreground. And I think I want to come up a little bit more with this guy. And a little bit taller with that guy. Maybe he can come all the way up. What I'm trying to avoid doing, and it's so hard, is to do tall, short, shorter, shortest, just to keep it interesting. You want to vary the height and not make it all the same. So come down. I'm just gonna fill in. Oopsie, clean up the spots. Burnt orange. How about some burnt sienna and burnt orange together? A little purple in there. Burnt orange and the purple makes a super awesome brown, dark brown. And how about some green coming in here? In the flat part of the brush, that. Softening up that a little bit. Just using the paper's texture to create some interest for me. All right, let's add a little purple in there. And I'm going to grab a little bit of, with a small brush, with a little number 2, some burnt sienna and a little touch of ultramarine to gray it down. A little burnt orange in there, like that. And then we're just going to indicate some tree trunks here and there. And I'm going to lift out some areas in there too. Come over here and do kind of the same thing. Actually, first, I'm going to get a little more dry brush with some darker green here and there. Lemon yellow, kind of make that kind of not so detailed, but something else I like to do here and there is splatter. You can do this with your brush. This one lets go of the water very easily, so I can do that. And then it's going to spread a little bit. And now I want to get my little round. And it will not look so harsh. It's going to just kind of mesh into that, meld into that wet paint that I just put down. Got some interest there. Don't get carried away. It's easy to do. Okay, this is dry enough to get some clear water and a damp brush. Paper towel handy to Dab off that excess paint that you're lifting. All right. Just gonna lift here and there. And then I'm going to come back in and put a little bit of color in that. Let's see, how about right there? Right here. And burnt orange in its purest. Just gonna come right there and add a little of that. And even a touch of purple. A little bit more over here. This paint is still just a little damp, so it's not a real harsh line. All right, got a little raw sienna. I'm gonna do a little dry brush over here. And let's do the same little thicker paint. Purple, and add just a little bit of, looks like maybe a dirt bank. Rinsed my brush and I'm softening the top edge. Soften. Some green. Green. It's all about variety. In your greens to make it realistic. And really in your whole painting for that matter. It's important to have interest. Interesting color. And the way you do that is just to have a variety ready to go. So you don't have to think. And we've got this fine little rigger brush, remember that one? Grab a couple of paper towels that are dry. And a grayish blue, which would be burnt sienna and ultramarine. And I'm just going to add a little life to this painting with my little liner brush and add some birds. All right. There is a quick little demo using some of those brush strokes. This is how I use my brushes a lot. So this is my painting style, and I just wanted to kind of take you through a little bit of a landscape piece and show you how I put into practice the brushwork that I showed you in the last video. So happy painting, you guys, and keep practicing. Practice makes progress. We know that is the case. So don't be discouraged if you're struggling. It teaches us. Struggles teach us. So just don't give up. Keep on going, and we'll see you next time with another video of putting brushwork into practice on a painting. Okay? So have a great evening, you guys, and you guys take care. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.